Hello, everyone, and good morning. My name is Erin. I'm joining you today from the Aquarium of the Pacific, and I'm very excited to get to chat with all of you this morning here on Aquarium Online Academy. Now, today we are going to be learning all about our Flippered Friends. You might be wondering, what are Flippered Friends? Well, if you have any questions about Flippered Friends, or if you would like to answer any of my questions about Flippered Friends, you can go ahead and text us right here. It's Monday morning. You can text us at 562-286-1838 if you're watching this live on Monday morning. If you're watching this at another time, go ahead and send us an email at live@lbaop.org, and we will do our best to respond to that within the next couple of days. So like I said, we're talking all about Flippered Friends. Specifically, we're talking about a group of mammals called pinnipeds. Have you heard that word before, pinnipeds? Now, pinnipeds include animals like seals, sea lions, and walruses. But before we talk about pinnipeds, I want to try to figure out, what is it that makes a mammal a mammal? Because I said that pinnipeds are a type of mammal. You're also a type of mammal. What are examples of other mammals? Does anyone have a dog or a cat at home? Those are mammals. What about animals that we think of that live on land, like cows? Those are mammals. Lions are mammals. Bears are mammals. Lots of the animals that we think about when we think of animals are mammals. And there's a couple of rules that they follow in order to be considered a mammal. The first one, I want everyone to touch your head. What do you have on top of your head? You have hair or fur. This is Maki. Maki is a mammal. You notice Maki has lots of hair. It's very, very soft hair. So these are examples of mammals. Mammals are animals that have hair or fur on their body. Another thing that makes a mammal is the fact that they give live birth. So they grow in their mother's bellies, and then when it's time for them to be born, they are born alive. They do not lay eggs. They are born alive. Another rule to be considered a mammal, so that's two rules. We have hair. They give live birth. Another one is that they drink milk. So as babies, they feed on milk from their mother, and their mother produces that milk, and the baby drinks that milk. The fourth rule to be considered a mammal is that they are warm-blooded. So what that means is that your body temperature stays the same all the time. So if you go to a place with snow, your body temperature stays the same. If you go to a warm desert, your body temperature is going to stay the same. So cold-blooded animals, their body temperature changes with their habitat. That's why you see animals like reptiles, like snakes and lizards, like laying out on rocks and soaking up that sun. That's because their body temperature changes. But animals like mammals, like these polar bears that we see here, they're able to maintain that constant body temperature. And we can do that in a couple of ways. Maybe when you go into hot weather, you sweat, or you have like fur, like this polar bear, to keep you warm in cold weather. So they have ways of keeping that body temperature constant. And the fifth rule to be considered a mammal, everyone take a big deep breath. Mammals breathe air. So instead of breathing oxygen from the water, mammals breathe oxygen from the air. So those are those 5 rules in order to be considered a mammal. They have hair, they give live birth, they drink milk from their mother, they are warm-blooded, and they breathe air. So these pinnipeds, this group that we're talking about, are an example of a mammal. And like I said earlier, pinnipeds include seals, sea lions, and walruses. Now we're going to take a look at our first pinniped, and we're going to try to learn a little bit more about it. Oh, this is a pinniped. It looks like it lives in a kelp forest. Let's keep our eyes out. Oh, wow! What do you see here? Any guesses what type of animal this is? If you're yelling sea lion, you are correct. These are sea lions. Now, a couple of things that you might notice about these sea lions. Take a look at them. See if you have any observations. What are the things that you notice? Now, the first thing that I'm seeing is those really, really long front flippers. Can you move those front flippers? Very good. They've got these really long front flippers. And they use those front flippers to help move themselves through the water. Now, in a little bit, we're going to look at seals, and we're going to get to try to figure out how these sea lions are a little bit different from the seals. So let's we'll look at these sea lions, see which characteristics they have. But I want you to remember these for when we're comparing them to the seals. Another thing that you'll notice about these sea lions is right here. What do you see? What is this body part that I'm circling right here? It's their ear flaps. So sea lions have ear flaps on the outside of their head. Now the ears are on the inside, just like you have all your hearing parts are in your head, but you do have these flaps on the outside, and they also have ear flaps, just like you do. What else do you notice about these sea lions? One thing that I think is really cool is, do you see how this sea lion in the front has kind of a small head? What do you see with this sea lion in the back? Is its head similar or is it different? Oh, here's another great photo so you can see that difference. So this sea lion in the front here with this really, really big head, that is an adult male. So this one is Parker. And Parker has that really big bump on top of its head because he's an adult male. So that's called a sagittal crest. Basically, it's a really prominent bump that they have on their head. It actually is in their skull. They have a skull change as they get bigger, so they are able to grow that large bump. And it's basically their way of showing that they are the dominant male in charge. So it's kind of like how lions grow that really big mane as they get older. It's their way of kind of showing that they're the dominant lion. The sea lion grows this really large bump on the top of its head, that sagittal crest. And you can see this one is actually a male also that you see back here, but it is an immature male. So it is not as old or as matured as Parker is. So we're able to see kind of these differences in their head shapes. Now I want you to look closely. Parker is opening his mouth really beautifully for us to see. And you might be thinking, why are Parker's teeth rotten? That's what it looks like, doesn't it? But that actually is a sign of very healthy teeth. So in sea lions, we love to see black teeth because that means that their teeth are really healthy. They get a healthy bacteria that grows on those teeth and it gives them that coloration, and that is a good sign for sea lions. So we're able to see that. What other things do you notice? Let's go back to this, see some other pictures of some sea lions. Oh, here we go. You can see their whiskers. So they have whiskers. What do you think they use those whiskers for? They can use them to kind of help figure out what's around them, just like your dog or your cat might use their whiskers. I notice also that this sea lion, it's wet, so it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that it does have fur or hair. We could see it a little better in that last one when they were dry. So they are a mammal. They have that fur or that hair, even though they live in the water. So knowing they're a mammal, even though they live in the water, we know that they actually swim all the way up to the surface, and that's where they take a big breath. Here we have, this is Parker when he was a little bit younger, a little bit smaller. Notice how Parker's able to stand. That's another thing to recognize. Parker's able to stand on all 4 flippers, and he actually is able to kind of walk around on those 4 flippers. So sea lions are really agile on land. They're really agile in the water too, as you can see from this video. But they are able to kind of walk on all 4 flippers and move around. And you kind of see them kind of walking like that. That's a sign that it is a sea lion. Oh, cool. We've got a video, I think, of them doing a little dance so we can see. Oh, cool. So this is one of our training sessions. Parker comes all the way up. Look at how he's able to stand on those 4 flippers. He's able to really kind of stretch his neck up, and his head's able to be far up off of the ground. That is a characteristic of a sea lion. Now, one last characteristic about a sea lion that I want to talk about is the sound that they make. If you ever heard like a barking or roaring noise, that comes from a sea lion. They make that like arr, arr, arr. Can you make a sea lion sound? Can you go arr, arr, arr? Very good. Now, as a reminder, if you have any questions at all, we'll get Kaya to put that picture back or that phone number back up there for you. But if you have any questions at all, feel free to text us. I would love to hear all of your observations about sea lions, as well as any questions that you have about them. Oh, I think we have a cool picture of Parker. Let's see. We're going to take another look at Parker. Wow, look at that. So I see a couple of things here. First off, look at how high Parker's able to get out of the water. What that shows me is that Parker was able to move very, very quickly. He has these really, really long front flippers, so he's able to really propel himself out of the water. A seal, who we will see in a little bit, is not able to jump out of the water like this. And I think we do have a question from Angelique. Ooh, why do they have the whiskers? Great question, Angelique. They use them just to kind of sense what's around them, especially when they're in the water. It can kind of help them figure out what's around them. So it's kind of just an extra, kind of like how you use your fingers to touch things. They're kind of similar to that. Very cool. So you can see them swimming through the water. They're really, really great swimming, and they do use their eyesight to figure out what's around them. They can also sense, though, using those whiskers. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angelique, for that question. If you have any other questions, we would love to hear them. But in the meantime, let's go ahead. We've talked a little bit about seals. Let's go ahead and take a look at a harbor seal. Oh, hello, harbor seal. This is one of our harbor seals. Now, what do you notice about this harbor seal? How is it different than the sea lions we were just looking at? You're probably seeing first off that it's a different color. So at the aquarium, we have California sea lions and we have harbor seals. So they do have different colorations, but there are some types of seals that are brown. And there are some types of sea lions that are spotted. But for these particular species, the seals are going to be these spotted colors. Here you can see them lounging on the rocks. So they do have a similar body shape. They're pretty round, just like the sea lions were. But they do have some differences with their body shape. First off, look at their flippers. They're kind of hard to see because they're pretty small. We'll see if we can see any other flippers in any other videos or pictures later. But they've got these really, really small front flippers, these short front flippers, and they make them a little bit less agile on land. So when you see them on land, they do this kind of wriggling motion where they wriggle like a worm on land. We're going to see if we can find a video of them moving around on land. You can even see here, though, here are these short front flippers. Look at how much shorter they are than the sea lion we were just looking at. They've got these short front flippers, and so they're not able to stand up and walk around on all four like the sea lion is. Instead, they kind of do that wriggling like a worm movement. And they do spend a lot more time kind of on their belly instead of up. Remember how the sea lion was kind of propped up like that. Something else that you might notice is that it does have that beautiful spotted colors. And while we've got this view here, what do you see here? What is that? That's their ear. So they do still have the ability to hear, but they don't have those external ear flaps like we do and like sea lions do. Remember, sea lions had those little flaps on the outside? They just have a hole on the side of their head. So they're still able to hear great. It just looks a little different on the outside. Oh, yeah. Kaya has a baby to show us. Kaya's in here in the studio with me controlling everything that you see behind me. And she says that she found some baby footage so we can see some baby harbor seals. Now, here at the aquarium, we have only male sea lions. So we don't ever get baby sea lions, but we do have male and female seals. So we've had several babies born here at the aquarium. There we go. I think this is baby Kaya. So I do have, it's a little confusing. We have a baby seal here at the aquarium whose name is Kaya. We also have an employee whose name is Kaya who's working with me today. But this is Kaya. She was born a couple of years ago. So this is a couple years old. I think she's now about 3 or 4 years old. And look at how little they are. But you can see that fur. That fur is really obvious. You can see that really dramatic hair. Fur. You can also see, just like the sea lion, they have whiskers. Look at those whiskers. Now, seals are really special because when they're born, they're actually able to swim already. So seals get in the water right after they're born. They're able to swim with their mom. They're not great swimmers. They're still learning how to swim, but they do get to get in the water right after they're born. So this is, I think, within a couple of days of Kaya being born. that she was swimming with her mom. We have some questions. How do they hear underwater? So they are able to hear underwater just like you and I are. So you know how if you ever go into a swimming pool and you go underwater, it's kind of a little bit muffled, but you're still able to hear. They are still able to hear as well. Although I think that they probably use their hearing more when they're up above the water. Why do they have fins? Great question. So the title of this class is Flippered Friends. So we actually call them flippers instead of fins when they're on mammals like this. So they have flippers. Now, why do you think these flippers are helpful? How does that help them to survive? Well, how do they use them? Do they use them? They do. They use them either to walk around on land or they use them for swimming in the water. So they use them primarily for swimming. We saw the sea lions earlier. They were swimming with those big front flippers. They were moving them like that. Seals swim a little bit differently. They use their tail basically to push themselves through the water, but they do use their flippers to help them with that swimming. And why don't seals jump as high? Great question. Remember we saw that picture of Parker jumping out of the water. Seals are not able to jump out of the water, and that's because they don't have those strong, powerful front flippers. So it's just kind of they don't have the same body parts, so their bodies aren't able to move in the same way. We have a video of our seal swimming underwater. Here we go. We're going to get that video up for you in just a second. I love this photo. Look at those eyes. She's got big, just looking at us right now. Now Kaya's pulling up that video of a seal underwater. Here's one of our harbor seals swimming by. Look at those whiskers. There you go. Swimming by. We saw the one in the background swim by. Look at how they're using those flippers to kind of move around in the water, kind of orient themselves in the water. We got 2 questions. Yes. All right. Okay, so the first question is, how do they breathe underwater? Great question. Now, these animals are mammals, so do they breathe underwater? Everyone take a big deep breath. Remember, one of the characteristics of mammals is that they breathe air. So these animals do not breathe underwater. What they do is they swim up to the surface and they take a breath, and then they're able to hold their breath and dive underwater. So just like when you go swimming in a pool or in the ocean, you're able to hold your breath. They're able to hold their breath. But they are much, much better at it than we are. In fact, our harbor seals are known to sleep on the bottom of the exhibit. So they'll take a big breath, and then they'll go underwater and they'll hang out underwater for like 30 minutes or so. And then they'll swim back up to the surface, get another breath, and then go back down for another 30 minutes. And the other question we had is, why do they have fur? Great question. So like all mammals, they do have hair or fur. Some mammals use their hair or fur to stay warm. Like the sea otter uses their hair basically to trap air bubbles. And it traps air bubbles, and those bubbles kind of insulate it and traps all their heat. So that's how they're able to stay warm. Just like when you put on a big puffy jacket, that puffy jacket traps all of the heat near your body, and you're able to stay warm because you're holding in all that body heat that you produce. Seals and sea lions, though, they also have another way of staying warm. They have blubber. So that's why they aren't quite as furry as the sea otter. So they have blubber, which is like a thick layer of fat on their body. We see it in sea lions, seals. We see it in whales, dolphins. They all have it. And basically, by having this really, really big body with this thick layer of fat on their body, it helps to keep them warm in the cold water. All right. And Kaya has found a video for us of a seal galumphing. So look at how it moves so much differently on land. Oh, look at that slow motion video of this galumphing seal. And a great view of that blubber too. Look at that blubber moving while it's walking. So seals are definitely able to move on land. They're a little bit less agile, but they still can move, and they actually can still move fairly quickly, even though they're not able to kind of prop up on those long front flippers. Now, we did see, I do want to point out, though, that just because they aren't as agile doesn't mean that they're not able to get around on land. Remember earlier we saw that picture of the seals on the rocks? The seals had to get up those rocks somehow, and they're actually able to climb up those rocks. So they're able to use their galumphing skills to kind of inch their way up. It looks like maybe there's a little ramp here. They kind of like crawl up this ramp, and they're able to move around pretty well. So they can get pretty high up out of the water so that they can kind of rest on these rocks you can see here. Now, these two that we've looked at so far, we've looked at California sea lions and we've looked at harbor seals, and they're both found right here in Southern California. So they're used to this type of temperature. They're used to being in this water. They feed on fish that live here. But there are also different types of seals and sea lions that live in all different types of waters. There can be some in warm tropical waters like Hawaii. There can also be some in colder like polar areas. There's lots and lots of seals and sea lions that live in the poles as well, in the Arctic and in the Antarctic. I think we might, huh? Oh, elephant seals. Yes, I think that we're going to take a look at some elephant seals next. And we're going to get to see this really unique, special seal. And you may have actually been able to see these before. If you go on the Central Coast, there's actually a beach where you can see all these elephant seals. They come out of the water for a couple months out of the year and stay on the sand here. So these are elephant seals. Like the harbor seals, they have no ear flaps. So that shows us that they are a seal. Even though they're brown, they're a seal. And they have a couple of kind of unique things about them. First off, they are really, really, really big. They are huge, huge. That's one of our employees here at the aquarium. So these guys are really, really big, up to like a couple 1,000 pounds, I think. And they have these really unique faces with these big noses. We'll see if we can find any males with those big noses. Kaya's going to bring up a picture for us, but they have these big noses. Basically what happens with elephant seals is all of the females come up onto a beach and they spend some time on the beach every single year. And the males will also come up onto that beach, and there'll be a male that's kind of in charge of that beach. And they're going to be the one that mates with the females on the beach and has all the babies. So they want to protect their beach and protect all the females there. They do that by kind of showing off those big noses. They've got these like big elephant-like noses. There you go. That's a really, really great view. And so the sea lions will actually kind of use these noses to show that they're the male in charge. And sometimes another male will come up to the beach and they'll challenge each other. And they can actually fight in the water there to figure out which male is going to be in charge of that beach. And these males are huge and they make this really loud kind of roaring noise. It's pretty incredible to get to see. We have more questions coming in. What do seals and sea lions eat? Great question. So they are fish. They eat fish. They're able to hunt fish. They're able to grab that fish while it's swimming. So they're able to move pretty quickly. Watch how fast these sea lions are moving. So they're able to grab fish. And their teeth, they actually have pointy teeth. I have a skull here. I'm just going to hold it up here in front of the camera for you because I want you to see their teeth. You can see how their teeth right here are kind of, whoopsie. There we go. You can see how their teeth here are pointed. They are not flat. The reason for that is that they're able to grab onto that fish and hold onto that fish using those pointed teeth. So they're not going to be chewing them. They just bite their food and then swallow it whole. So they just use those teeth to grab on. Very cool. Oh, here's a picture of one of those elephant seal battles. Here's the male and the other male that it's challenging. You can actually see if you look closely, it looks like this elephant seal has some scarring on it from prior battles. So, more elephant seal questions. Awesome. Okay, so why do they look so different? They are just a really, really large seal. So they kind of have a different body shape because of that trunk. And that trunk is something that only the males have. It's kind of their sign that they're an adult, mature male. Because the females, they have a normal seal face. And it's just something that the males have. So remember earlier we talked about how the sea lion has that big sagittal crest on top of its head. Or we talked about how the lion has a really big mane around it. It's just kind of that signal to others that they are a big adult male. Oh, we have a baby elephant seal. Let's check out a baby elephant seal. There it is. Look at that baby elephant seal. Lots of blubber there that you can see as well. Very cute. Look at that little baby. Another question. Why do seals and sea lions jump when they walk? Great question. So remember, seals and sea lions kind of move in different ways. So the sea lions, and you can move with me if you want. The sea lions, remember, they walk on all four, so they kind of move like this. And that's just because they have kind of big bodies. It's the best way for them to be able to move. The seals do what we call that galumphing, where they wriggle on their bellies like a worm. And that's because they don't have those long front flippers. They can't walk on all four flippers. So instead, they use their bellies to help them move. It's just the way that their bodies are able to move. Ooh, here's a fur seal also for you, just to kind of show that there are lots of different types of seals that live in lots of different types of places. Now, I want to go back and focus on the seals and sea lions that we have here at the aquarium. And I want to talk a little bit about how we take care of those seals and sea lions. One of the most important ways that we take care of them is through their training. So here at the aquarium, we have animal trainers. Their official job title is mammalogists because they are the mammal experts at the aquarium. They care for our seals, sea lions, and sea otters. And they do several training sessions every single day with our seals and sea lions. That's what this is here. You can see each one of these staff members is working with an individual. This video is before COVID. That's why they're not wearing any masks, you can see. But they each are working with an individual animal. Here we have Hugh working with Parker, and they're going to go through that training. So you might see them barking or roaring. You might see them kind of dancing a little bit. You might see them like lifting up a flipper. Oh, here we have one of them lifting a flipper for Jimmy. And all of that is really important for their health. So they're doing a couple of things through these training sessions. First off, it's working their mental, like working their brain. It's like a brain exercise. So just like it's important for you to go to school and for you to always be learning and growing in your skills, the same thing is true for our sea lions. We want to make sure they're always learning something new. We're always challenging them and that they're always getting that mental stimulation. The other thing that it does is it gives them physical exercise. So it gets them moving. Our seals and sea lions don't have to hunt for their own food. So we have to make sure that they're still getting that physical exercise that they need. So climbing up on here, standing up and lifting their arms, swimming and retrieving things, doing the jumps out of the water. All of those things are really great physical exercise. So it's kind of like their PE class. And then finally, the last reason that we do it is for something called husbandry. So just for animal care. So earlier we saw that the sea lion was opening its mouth. That's a really good behavior for our sea lions to practice so that we can keep an eye on their mouth and how their mouth health is. That way, if it looks like they maybe have a tooth issue or something like that, we can keep an eye on it and our staff can be familiar with it. It also helps because then if we ever have to do anything like give them eye drops or for our seals, we brush their teeth, anything like that, the animals are already trained to be able to do that. So it really helps to make it easier to care for our animals when they're able to participate in their health care like that.
My name is Sam. I'm one of the mammalogists that gets to work with our sea otters as well as our seals and sea lions. I'm going to be feeding Betty today in front of you guys and talking to you guys about sea otters as well as Betty. And I'm going to feed her this whole bucket. So if you take a zoom in here, she's going to eat all of this in one sitting, and she gets about 4 to 5 sessions of this every single day. So she gets this yummy squid right here, some clam pieces, and then some shrimp with the shell and everything. No heads, but with the shell. So come on in. I'm going to go and...
All right, so that was an example. That was one of our mammalogists. She was preparing actually to feed our sea otters, but that was kind of an example of that bucket that you can see. So every single day they'll weigh out that bucket and they'll measure the amount of food so that the animal is getting the perfect amount of food. They'll also fill it with any vitamins that they need, and then each animal will have that specific bucket. So Parker has a bucket, Kaya has a bucket, Shelby has a bucket. Each one has their own bucket with their own food inside of it. And then the trainers go on to exhibit. They'll pair up with their assigned animal, go through that training, and they'll get their food during that training. We have one last question today. Oh, that's a great question. It has to do with how we get our seals and sea lions. So all of our sea lions that we have here have been born in zoos and aquariums. So if they're born in an aquarium, then they're not going to be able to live out in the ocean. So they've been born in zoos and aquariums. I think all of our seals were born in aquariums as well. In the past, we have had some that were rescues, like all of our sea otters are rescues, but basically they're all either going to be rescues or they'll come from other zoos and aquariums. And then as far as how we move them around, how we transfer them, all of our seals and sea lions are actually trained to go into, they're like these big crates. They kind of look like dog crates, and they're all trained to go into them. That way we're able to instruct them into them. We close it up, and then they're on wheels, and we're able to move them around. That's really helpful, like if we ever have to bring them to our animal hospital for a vet checkup or anything like that. And having them be trained to do that makes it much, much easier because it means we don't have to try to restrain a really, really big animal. So we like to have them participate in their health care like we talked about. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I've had so much fun learning with you today. If we have any teachers out there, if you could just text in how many students you have watching, it helps us to keep track of all of our numbers. So let us know how many students you had watching, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.